Hello, and welcome to a new edition of Education is Best Medicine, and the final one for November. I want to thank you for listening over the last year, and I want to say Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, and as we move forward in this new, brave new world. Um, and again, good afternoon, and again, I just want to thank everyone for participating and everyone for providing their views. And I think that, uh, as we talk about this in the context of Thanksgiving and uh, wanted to kind of share some of my thoughts on it, as well as continuing our discussions around pancreatic, pancreatic cancer as well as lung cancer. Again, in the spirit of November, it is a Native American Heritage Month, and I wanted people to kind of really be understanding of what that means in the context of wokeness, in the context of history, in the context of health. Native Americans only make up 2.5% of the population, but they, from my own literature understanding, a lot of psychological, social issues, reservation, their the culture and the absence of the culture in their day-to-day lives, and almost a wish to sanitize them from American history, but you can't, because they are the original people of the what we call the American United States. And again, I think that it was kind of important to understand how important Native Americans were in America. And so I asked the question, what was the Native Americans' contribution to the white colonists in the first winter in America? And we'll talk about some time frames, but also I want to start with the fact that the first African Americans were brought to America as slaves in Virginia in August of 1619 by the Portuguese colonial forces, the European forces, and just a move to human beings as commerce. And then we were traded to the English colonists, and it marked the beginning of the slave trade in America. And so I was just trying to understand the relationship between Native Americans and how America, the colonists, survived the first winter. And understand, while they were trying to survive the first winter, they were also trafficking slaves. And using the Native Americans to get a foothold into these Americas that they would claim. And again, how do you claim something where people are already living there? So, and again, I wasn't taught this in my history class, and I guess this is a woke truth of some of the things they're going to try to hide and discard. But I just wanted to be clear about them and how I feel about them. And I always said that we're in an age where truth becomes lies and lies become truth, and we just can't let it happen. And I have grandbabies who I want to congratulate. Kaylee just finished in the honor roll. I think it was a 3.49 on my math, but she was I was impressed. I'm happy that she's smart. She's smart. Girls are smart. And I kind of want to call out, in terms of this whole discussion that we're having in terms of healthcare, a paper tiger. And what's a paper tiger? It's a term that refers to something or someone that appears powerful or threatening, but is actually weak and ineffectual. And it's a phrase that was originated from a Chinese idiom and popularized by Mao Zedong to describe entities that seem formidable, but they are not. And I submit to you, that's the time that we are in now. And so, interesting, GPT chat talks about the original Native Americans that helped the original Americans, colonists, 13 colonies, that group, the first to land on Plymouth Rock, or as Malcolm would say, Plymouth Rock landing on us being those African slaves. It says that they received support from Native Americans, particularly the Squanto, and the Wampanoag tribe was crucial in helping the Pilgrims survive. The Squanto taught them essential survival skills such as how to cultivate corn, fish, and gather local resources. This assistance was vital for the Pilgrims' survival and helped establish the foundation for the future success of the Plymouth colony. So without them, the Americans do not exist because they did not know how to survive in that environment. They were English, coming from English winters, not American, harsher, colder winters. They were coming from an environment during winter they could probably find because of their network food, as it coming to a land where there was no network that existed except for those that lived it. That's why they could not have survived without the help of Native Americans. I think we should be kind of clear about that. But at the same time, okay, so the Pilgrims, they faced their first winter in America during the winter of 1620 to 1621. Okay, 1620 to 1621. But the first slaves came to Virginia in 1619. So America was already trafficking in human folks prior to, and that really crucial winter or winters, 620 to 21, where if not for the help of Native Americans, they do not survive the winter. Because remember, they were coming from England, and England wasn't really helping that much. They really wanted them to disappear. And they ever said, you want people to disappear? So homelessness is just a takeoff to that. You remove the people off the streets, but they're still homeless. And they're going to pop up somewhere in society. You can't gloss over it. Essential issues like housing and economic, empowerment, and making folks that are broken unbroken, or helping them get unbroken. That's what we should be about. But that's not what we're going to be about. So the first Thanksgiving is 1621. And they track it back, says when the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag and Native Americans shared a feast in Plymouth, present-day Massachusetts. So present-day Massachusetts is the origin of Thanksgiving. And that's in 1621. So America's quite busy. It's trafficking slaves. It's trying to survive a winter. It is making relationships with Native Americans. And again, they were the originators here. And now they're only 2.5% of the population. So Thanksgiving became a national holiday much later. And that's when President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed in 1863 during the Civil War, designating the last Thursday of November as the Thanksgiving and Praise. Interesting, huh? So I took a little bit more of a deeper dive into this because I wanted to kind of understand it. And so I asked again, GCP Chat and also Microsoft AI. Again, combination of both these sources, and again, pretty profound. So Native Americans played a crucial role in helping the Pilgrims survive the first winter in America. One of the most notable figures was Squanto, known as Tisquante, a member of the Panets tribe. Squanto had previously been captured and taken to Europe, where he learned English. This unique experience made him invaluable as an intermediary between Pilgrims and the Native American tribes. That's kind of interesting because inherently, the destruction of their way of life and community people came from within, it didn't come from without. Just kind of draw those parallels in what's happening now, you know. So I keep thinking this phrase. It says, if what you see offends you, then pluck your eye out. You know, you don't deal with what you're seeing. You just take away the vision to see it. So what role do they play? I think that's kind of important because that's not discussed in the last few Thanksgivings that I've involved myself in, and family outings. We never had a discussion about Native Americans' benefit. You know, it was always a sanitized version, a Norman Rockwell version. And I use Norman Rockwell as one of those classic traditional American painters that paints the American life, not as it is. Well, in some cases, when he did Ruby Bridges in the piece where she's walking down the street and she's being called on the back of the face is screw. It's a written nigger. And then these 4, I guess, to be federal officers are leading her into school. We're not that far removed from that. Anyway, so key contributions. Agricultural guidance. Squanto taught the Pilgrims essential agricultural techniques such as how to plant corn, beans, squash together as a method as the 3 sisters. This method improved soil fertility and crop yields. So understand, not only did they teach them how to grow, they taught them how to be self-sustaining. So when we think about corn, think about beans, think about squash, think about California as the food belt, you have to thank the Native American Indians, Mr. Squato. Because without that, they either grow too much or grow too little, and there's no balance. So the Native Americans brought a sense of integrity and balance about the respect for nature and how one treats the land, how one honors the land. And that's being lost in commercialism, right? You produce as much as you can, as fast as you can, regardless. And that's why maybe this move back to organic as best we can. But another story. They also helped do fishing and foraging. He showed them how to, not just the community of Native Americans, showed them how to fish and gather local resources were vital for sustenance. So if I want you to live, I don't feed you, I teach you how to grow the food yourself. And I show you how to sustain it. I don't remember that in the story of Thanksgiving. I'm just sorry, I just don't remember it. What an integral role they played in the survival of the early Pilgrims, colonists, Americans, framers of the Constitution. Because in that same Constitution, remember, they're still trafficking slaves. And it's becoming a part of the workforce. That's the history, whether you like it or not. And I want to thank the Facebook family, and I want to thank all those that keep things going, keep the conversation going. It's a conversation. You should be able to have a conversation, I think, about things and understand them. just not say that's the way it is, because that's not fair. I believe radio, 24-hour inspirational gospel music. I want to thank Amology and Miss Howard, and she's back, and they're doing it again. The Alameda County Food Bank is doing a comedy night. I think it starts at 7. Henry J. Kaiser. Jump online, you can get some tickets. It's to benefit the Alameda County Food Bank. So I think I have a flyer. I'll see if I can get it. But and diplomatic relations. This Squanto helped establish and maintain peaceful relations between pilgrims and the Wampani tribe, led by the chief Masna. This alliance was crucial for the pilgrims' survival and security. For their survival and their security. Without them, for example, instead of putting their homestead near water and a source of ability to grow, they might put it in the middle of a bear refuge. And the bears were asleep at night. I mean, in the winter, but when they came out, they'd be right in the middle of them. Something weird like that. Anyway, it says without the assistance of the Native Americans, the pilgrims might not have survived their first winter in the New World. Their contributions were instrumental in the establishment of the Plymouth colony, the colony which we would call the beginnings of the United States. So that's the significance of Native Americans on Thanksgiving. That's the discussion we should be having. But, it's always a but. That's why it's woke. The truth is woke. So the lie is that pilgrims met with Indians, settled, grew the colony, and they were self-existent. The hardy American individualist. Further from the truth. But when the lie is the truth and the truth's a lie, then it doesn't matter. So I want to again thank the Native American community for allowing us to live on their land and enjoy a quality of life that we probably could have enjoyed otherwise. They should be honored just for that. But again, as a result of misconceptions and ignorance surrounding Native peoples and Native culture, it has led to the perpetuation of harmful and misinformed celebrations and Hollywood. The Lone Ranger and Tonto. I'm that old. And Tonto meant dumb Indian. How about that? Anyway, so I think it's important to remember this month and remember the entirety of the Native Americans. Again, for GB chat, but I agree totally. It's important for each of us to remember the entirety of a nation's history, including especially the history of Native Americans. Systemic issues that still exist today take supportive, uplifting action to right historical injustices, which is really hard when you're focused on yourself, when you're a me society. So a land that welcomes you, a people that welcome you, a people that helped in your existence and your security, you place on plantations. Plantations too? Reservation plantation. Always someplace you want to take somebody when you don't like them as a group. They did it to the Asians too. Which I say, Seems kind of interesting. This whole immigration and deportation thing is going to be ugly. Can't help but not be ugly. We'll see how that plays out. And so, November is also National Homeless Youth Awareness Month. And I bring this to the table because as many as 2.5 million, I said again, youth experience homelessness. And in this discussion around the National Homeless Awareness Month and National Homeless Youth Awareness Month, and one of the government agencies, Samsung, has a partnership with federal, state, and local partners and national experts to provide training on housing, treatment, and recovery models focused on adults and children and families who are experiencing or at the risk of homelessness and have some serious mental illnesses. So what's going to happen to a department like this in this coming administration? Will the door be locked? Will the door be closed? Will there be a website that says, sorry about that, we're no longer funded? Anyway, and I'll tell you, this is why I say this. Some of the issues around homelessness, youth homelessness, and in part, some of the guys' major depressive episodes. And it says, although nearly 1 in 5 straight female youth has a major depressive order in the year, the LGBT and female youth and female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity were more likely to have an MDE, which is a major depressive episode. So these, my patients, my adult patients that are lesbian, transgender, are more likely to have depression. Almost half of and again, youth to adult. If you don't deal with them in the youth, you're going to see them in adults. And it's not about their gender, it's about the need to have an illness treated so they can function as best as they can. I'm not about and will never be about criminalizing gender. You are who you say you are. I have to respect that. That's why I always say I'm a black man in America, an African American man in America. I have to own that. Almost half of the LGBT plus female youth and nearly 1 in 3 female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity had a major depressive episode. They were 4 times more likely than straight male youth to have an major depressive episode. Male youth who were not sure of their sexual identity also were more likely than the straight male youth to have a major depressive episode. About 1 in 4 male youth who are not sure about their sexual identity had a major depressive episode. The LGBT plus youth and youth who were not sure about their sexual identity were more likely than their straight counterparts to have a major depressive episode. Basically, gender considerations, LGBT community as a whole have more major depressive episodes. And this translates into, hospitalizations, attempts at suicide, successful suicides, living in fear. Yeah. So I always ask in this coming administration, what place will my patients have? The patients are coming to choose to see me. What choices will they have? Will it be written off the examination scrolls? Unless they declare they are male or female. It's why a lot of providers want to get out of practicing. Shouldn't be making these decisions. It's hard enough to take care of folks with major depressive episodes that are straight, LGBTE, undecided, because it is. That's the kaleidoscope that we live in. It's just not black and white. It's a lot of gray. That's one of the hardest things I had to learn as a clinician, the gray, and be accepting of it. Says LBGT female youth and LBG female youth and female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity were more likely than straight female youth to have serious thoughts of suicide in the past year. More females considering suicide. Young females. And this continues throughout their lives until they're successful or they become okay with them. This is more than 1 in 3 LGBT female youth. Nearly 1 in 5 female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity had serious thoughts of suicide. LGBT female youth and female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity were more likely than straight female youth to have made a suicide plan. So not only do they think about suicide, they think about how to kill themselves. So as a clinician, as a provider, when folks declare gender preference and it's not the traditional male female, I have to really ensure that there are no mood disorders, there's no of serious depression or anxiety or trauma that can lend itself to them committing suicide. And vis-a-vis plan. You plan something, then you do it. That means they have thought long and hard about this, that their existence on this planet isn't important. It's and more likely, so I'll just read this. It says, LBG plus female youth and female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity were more likely than straight female youth to attempt suicide. More than 1 in 10 LGBT female youth, more than 1 in 20 female youth who were not sure about their sexual identity attempted suicide. So if you're LGBT or you're just not sure what you are sexually, and the clarity is that what your genitalia, what you were born as, does not necessarily dictate who you think you are and how you feel about who you are. In other words, I have a penis, but I may think female in that genre, or I'm a female that thinks male. So although my genitalia is a particular genitalia, it doesn't define me who I am sexually, or if I'm even sure. So that's the gray areas you have to talk with people about. And it has to be open, it has to be honest, We don't know everything. We have to admit that we don't know everything. That we're not clear about this. This is new for me too. I'm trying to understand it. How do I understand it? That beats criminalization and objectifying and and trying to send someone to a camp to change who they say they are. Anyway, that's it. And I say this because the 2 men that got me into medicine were gay men. We were great friends. So, and that's why I talk about these things too. Compared with straight male youth, LGBT male youth, were about 5 times more likely to have serious thoughts of suicide, and about 4 times is likely to have made a suicide plan. About 9 times is likely to attempt suicide. And see, that could come in a variety of issues. Alcohol use, driving fast, getting in a fight, that kind of thing. Risky, stuff. So, and I just think that when you look at that, you look at homelessness, it's hard to get someone housing when they have mental health challenges. This is why these things need to be addressed from a mental health perspective as well as a housing perspective. Because if you have a person that's had mental challenges, put them in a place to live, they're going to treat it like they're outside. It's one of the biggest things in bringing folks from the streets to a housing complex or a unit. They still live as though they're outside because they've been put out and displaced and just, they're traumatized. Folks are traumatized. It's half an hour in the show. Thank you very much for listening to Believe Radio, 24-hour inspirational gospel music station. I'm George Pearson. I'm a physician's assistant. I've been practicing about 35 years. And went to Stanford in 1982, started practicing in 84, then did a degree program at USF in organizational behavior because I want to understand systems change. That's what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with systems change. And again, in November is COPD Awareness Month, and I talked about my dad and Dean Martin and the Rat Pack and the fact that one could stop smoking, one couldn't. So, and again, COPD, talk to you about it, it's a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is a term used to describe a number of lung diseases. They include emphysema, chronic bronchitis, but the overarching issue is breathing, difficulty breathing, labored breathing, along with chest tightness, fatigue on walking, gasping for air, sometimes air hunger, and a chronic cough, sometimes productive, sometimes not productive. Some of the risk factors, COPD is often referred to as a smoker's disease. Although smoking is one of the main risk factors developing COPD, some people who never smoke develop COPD, and I forget it's an alpha fetal trypsin protein, I think, that you measure. It's one of those pieces about inflammatory or causes of COPD unrelated to smoking. In genetics, it says a history of childhood respiratory infections, smoke exposure from coal or wood burning stove, exposure to secondhand smoke. And I think that's why a lot of the Asian women are picking up these lung cancers, secondhand smoke. And again, family members, children having asthma, people with a history of asthma, people who have underdeveloped lungs, people who at age 40 or older, people who age 40 or over, as you get older, your lung function declines anyway. And so these are some of the causes and risk factors for COPD. Also, people living in poverty and people living in rural areas are more likely to develop COPD. Beyond smoking status, some reasons for increased risk of developing COPD may include exposures to indoor, outdoor pollutants, occupational exposures, lack of access to healthcare. So, although smoking is a major issue, it's environmental it's structural, it's systemic problems. Um, Again, in terms of even having these treatments, it's smoking at a younger age, females smoking at a younger age, and drinking at a younger age. Risk behaviors like that, and the money to do it or not. So, again, COPD, the awareness was established to address the increasing prevalence of COPD disease and the impact on public health. And when I think about public health, it's like, what's going to happen as we approach this new normal? And the assault on science and education. And what would that mean for public health? The reason why we survived this pandemic, because we had a public health system in place that allowed us to institute treatments early, quickly, efficiently. What happens when that system is not in place and the next pandemic comes? Because it will come. It's not a one and done. People have to think proactively instead of reactively. So, some of the data that I saw on COPD says that from 2011 to 2022, COPD was stable among adults. From 1999 to 2021, COPD rates decreased overall and in men. But in the U.S., COPD among the adults remained unchanged from 2021 to 2022. COPD among women was higher than among men across years. Why is that? Remember I said Virginia Slims, you come a long way as a woman, and this marketing of women toward these products. So women are, one, have the money to buy them. They are, two, thinking it's a part of the good life. Three, an intense marketing campaign toward women and smoking. Not smoking, against smoking, toward smoking. And I think all the people that have stopped smoking, I want to thank you. All the people that are smoking but need to stop, please do. It's one of the best things you can do for your health. And I don't advocate, mass anything most of the time, but this is something that you can do. And just the issue around referred smoke and secondhand smoke are be something to you that if you are an adult or a family member or a mother or a father, you're passing this tobacco on to your kids and asthma or respiratory diseases or COPD as they get older. Some of the treatments, chronic COPD is diagnosed through a combination of symptom assessment. We talked about that: cough, chest tightness, wheezing, history of smoking, medical history, physical exam, of course, heart and lung exam, wheezing, bronchi, chronic cough, with or without sputum production, and common diagnostic tests. Although chest x-rays aren't used a lot, I mean, they're used a lot, but you have to think about doing it. And I think that for me is the standard smoke comes in with smoking treatment, and I just do a smoking treatment, but now I have to evaluate his lungs again. And if he's been smoking more than 15 years, he needs to go to get a spiral CT scan for pulmonology. I usually have it done by the pulmonologist who does an assessment also, make sure there are not any other lung diseases. Again, extra added expense. It would be easier to stop smoking. But even if you stop smoking, if you smoke for at least 15 years, you need to be evaluated and screened for lung cancer. So the chest x-ray, CT scans, blood tests to measure a lung function, the pulmonary function test, and treatments for COPD can range. It can be a slow disease, progressive. It can be a slow disease, or it can be a progressive disease, or it can be a slow and progressive disease that changes the quality of your life. If you manage it, it stabilizes it. It isn't as harmful as it could have been. Again, this is why we want women to stop smoking pre and post menopause, because you lose the pre-menopause, you start to lose the protective effects of estrogen, progesterone, and you're more likely to have more likely to increase your risk of heart disease and lung disease, particularly if you smoke. So medications, they use bronchodilators, things like albuterol, it's Broncho 2 drug, dilates the bronchioles, inhale steroids, combination inhalers to reduce inflammation and open airways. And so again, this issue around inflammation rears its head again across the medical spectrum. And what it is that the areas of the lung ways are inflamed, which means white blood cells are attacking this trigger, usually tobacco, trying to get you rid of it. And it inflames the lungs and inflames the airways and makes it hard to breathe. And oxygen therapy for some, pulmonary rehabilitation, exercise training, nutritional advice, and education to improve physical and emotional well-being for those that try to stop smoking. Surgery, in severe cases, sometimes you can reduce the lung. It's called lung reduction volume surgery or lung transplant considered also. And then the lifestyle changes. It's quit smoking, avoid lung irritants, and maintain a healthy diet. Well, that's November. Again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This is my last show for the month. I want everyone to have a happy Thanksgiving. Miss Howard will be back next week doing what she does. Sure, she'll have some guests. And as I figure this technical, I'm going to have some more guests. Okay? I'm going to do some more Zoom stuff. I'm excited about that. I want to thank Dr. Lenore. We taped our first session of the Dr. Lenore, Mr. Pearson PA program. Dr. Lenore is a pediatric allergist that does, his website is black.org, and his wife, lovely wife, Miss Lenore, who is a pediatric specialist, also in allergy too. Kind of like power couple, I guess you say. Yeah. And so I want to thank both of them. He and I did our first taping on Saturday, and it's going to be 15-minute podcast, as well as sectional discussions. I'm excited about that. Bring him on for a little bit of a focus and, do some different stuff. Again, I want to thank everyone for watching. I appreciate you all. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. I'll say it again. Say tough times don't last, but tough people do. Want to give a special shout out to all those that have been so supportive, and want to keep it moving. So November is National Diabetes Month, and some of the things that we talked about in terms of focus, in terms of treatment of diabetes. Diabetes is a huge disabling, huge cardiovascular risk factor, huge in-organ damager. So it's one of the things we want to kind of address. And so standard treatments for diabetes focus on managing blood sugar levels, preventing complications, and promoting overall health. And here are some of the key components again: GTP chat combo with Microsoft AI. Lifestyle modifications, diet, advanced diet and fruits and vegetables. Watch the fruits because of the sugar. And whole grains and lean proteins. Again, plant-based diet. Decrease red meat. Exercise, regular physical activity to help control blood sugar levels. Even with these new medicines that are being talked about, the Ozempic, Jardiance, all these SGLT drugs, SGLT2 drugs. It's a diet and exercise, food choices. So it's just not the drugs. It's never been just the drugs. I think that's what we have to get out of in the society. It's about a pill. This pill will fix it. No, it won't. It'll help you deal with some of the symptomatology. It'll help control, some of the issues, but it's really a person-driven issue. And that's one of the things that Dr. Lara and I talked about this in this last podcast about what you can do to take care of yourself. Not selfish, but take care of yourself. Which is what I've always advocated for. Medications like metformin, first-line medication for type 2 diabetes, sulfurias, help the pancreas produce more insulin. Don't use them as much because of the risk of hypoglycemia. Insulin therapy and type 1 always. And different delivery symptoms, different delivery systems, as well as ways to monitor the blood sugar. The Dexcom ones, I think, just changed the game. But again, all these particular products and devices don't replace the person in their care. And so GLP-1 agonists help lower blood sugar levels, promote weight loss. The SGLT inhibitors help remove excess glucose from the urine. Again, lowering weight and lowering cardiovascular risk factors. Monitoring by blood glucose monitoring, regularly checking blood sugars to make sure you're not too high, too low, or using a system like Dexcom off the phones. Again, you have to use them. If you don't use them, they don't work. Or they don't give you the information you need. Monitoring is by blood glucose monitoring, really checking blood sugar levels again. The hemoglobin A1C, which is a look backwards of 3 months when an individual takes the blood sugar vis-a-vis the blood draw, and it shows what a A1C target numbers are 5.7 less, and it allows us to understand pre-diabetes as well as diabetes in terms of the numbers. And education support, learning about diet, disease management, and the best person to take care of a process is understanding that process, whether you believe it or not. So in this new area of lack of science and lack of just lack of science, lack of education, it'll be more important. It'll be more important than I will deal with, and I would generate information from facts, and I would generate information from clinical practice, and leave the ideology and my personal feeling out of the care of the people that I take care of. So that's why I tell people to do their homework. In management complications, regular checkups, monitoring the complications of nerve disease, eye disease, heart disease, kidney disease, vessel disease, foot issues. Foot issues are really important. Diabetes, I think, is the number 3 cause of amputations, non-traumatic amputations. And what I mean by that is that you could have an injury, break your foot, that would heal better than a person that's having amputation for diabetes. Because you have to amputate. So, the standards for type 1 diabetes is insulin therapy. Since the body doesn't make insulin, or the insulin it's making doesn't work for it, and need to take insulin through injections or an insulin pump. No way to get around it. Blood sugar monitoring, regular monitoring blood glucose levels to manage and adjust insulin levels. So it's always this dance you have to play between the food, between the message you're taking, and monitoring. So make sure you don't get too high, too low. Again, you learn, you have to. Diet and exercise, a balanced diet and regular activity are crucial for managing blood sugar levels. Crucial. Education and support, diabetes, self-management, education support, help patients manage their condition effectively. Again, more of the treatment and management of disease processes are going to be a collaborative issue between the provider and what needs to be done and the client. And the client needs to know almost literally as much as I know in order to really, really be effective. Again, it's not the whys. Because if you know the whys when something's not right, then you know it's not right. You know, I am a miss of people say, well, I know it, my blood pressure, I can feel it. No, you can't. You think you can feel it. And if you can feel it, then what's the pressure? Because if it's not too high, then we don't do anything. But you don't know that. Blood sugar, same thing. And blood sugar is a different beast too. Hypertensive blood pressure issues are more silent. Blood sugar tends to cause a lot more problems. So again, both require monitoring, both require changes in exercise, both require, proper diet, both require, ongoing evaluation. It's just that's the way. Future treatments, future diabetes treatments. The future of diabetes treatment is promising with several events on the horizon. Continuous glucose monitoring, CGM improvements in CGM technology, including non-invasive sensors and dual glucose ketone sensors, are expected. And tell you when you're going to ketoacidosis, great. Advanced insulin therapies developed once weekly and glucose responsive insulin to improve diabetes management. They already got that now, but it's not as good as it's going to get. Cell replacement therapies, research into replacing insulin producing cells for type 1. Those diabetes still in early stages shows potential. Now, what's going to happen in this environment if this research isn't allowed to continue or slow it up or stop because they don't want it to be too good so they can make more money off what they're making? Boy. Immune therapies, new therapies to delay the onset of type 1 diabetes and prevent complications, weight loss, medications, drugs. We're seeing them already. Ozempic, Wegovy, all of them. Drugs originally approved for diabetes treatment are being used for weight loss, which can help manage type 2 diabetes, but they're so expensive. And the companies don't want to pay for them. The insurance companies don't want to pay for them. What do you say about that? Yeah. What do you say? I don't know. That's the problem. That's the whole problem. Companies have to promote whole pools to get authorizations for medicines. Shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. And that's the cost. Yeah. Anyway, it's 54. It's 54 minutes. I got about another 10 minutes, huh? It's been great. Thank you very much. It's been a great November learning about Native American history and COPD and diabetes and just kind of reliving those things. And the last subject that I'm going to touch on is epilepsy. Again, epilepsy, we talked about last week. It's known as a seizure disorder. It's a brain condition that causes recurring seizures. There are many types of epilepsy. in some people, the cause can be identified. In others, it cannot be. And so some of the treatments. So current treatments in epilepsy / seizures. Medications, anti-epileptic drugs or ADAs, are the most common treatment. They help control seizures in about 70% of people with epilepsy. Common ADE drugs include valproate, levotiraxone, and carbazine. I'm butchering those names. But it's standard. And again, talk to your medical provider about these. Talk to your medical about everything. Have a discussion. Try to learn something. Try to teach something. Because ultimately, you're going to be the best person to navigate through these systems now. These changes are in place. Nothing's going to be a given. I'll always be science-based, and I'll always try to bring information that's true and informative and as free of bias as possible. Surgery. For those who can't respond to medicines, surgery can be an option. Procedures like lobotomy, a multiple sub-PI transection can reduce or eliminate seizures. But what does it do to the person, though? So, no discussion. They're also using lasers, too, for some reason. I think I've heard some stuff about that. Dietary therapy. The ketonic diet, which is high in fats and low in carbohydrates, can be effective, especially for children with epilepsy. Why'd watch that one? Vagus nerve stimulation is a device implanted on the skin of the chest, and it sends electrical pulses to the brain via the vagus nerve to help control seizures. Responsive neurotransmitters is a device implanted in the skull to monitor brain activity and deliver electrical stimulation when it detects seizure activity. A lot of cutting edge stuff, a lot of futuristic stuff, a lot of stuff that science and education have to be a part of, and not, fear and ignorance and discounting things because you don't understand them, or you're not aware of them, or it offends you. So that's kind of interesting. So here's what I thought was doing. So the future of epilepsy treatment. Optogenetics. Researchers are exploring the use of light-sensitive proteins to control seizure activity in neurons. This technique, still in experimental stages, could offer a less invasive alternative to surgery. Advanced neural stimulation. Improvements in neural stimulation devices, such as more precise and more responsive systems, are being developed to better control seizures. Gene therapy. Potential treatments that target the genetic cause of epilepsy are being researched. Wearable technology and AI. Here we go. Wearable devices and artificial intelligence are being used to monitor and predict seizures, providing real-time data to improve treatment plans. These advances hold promise and personalized epilepsy treatments in the future. What do you think about that? The world science. And I want to say thank you to everybody. It's been great. Please take care of yourself. Take care of everyone. Love everybody. Be peaceful. Keep it moving. I want to thank everyone for their support. And at 69, I think we have still got a few more things we got to do. Again, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Be safe, be peaceful, have a great holiday. Do what you do so well. Say love on one another and be loved. Kenyatta, love you too. Kaylee, I'm so proud of you. Yeah, honor roll, huh? I didn't make the honor rolls to college. Anyway, that's a good thing. I want to say, take care, everybody. Be peaceful.